Hello and welcome to a Black Talk Radio News Report and Commentary. My name is Scotty Reed. Please continue to support the nonprofit media organization Black Talk Media Project, which manages blacktalkradionetwork.com. All right, in this particular video, I'm going to touch upon a very important issue in the United States. I know we look sometimes at the news and we hear about, world stories about homelessness and poverty in other countries, but I don't think it's exaggerating when some people say that many parts of the United States is like living in a third world country. So this particular story, we're going to touch on homelessness and rent control, which also, if you want to talk about homelessness, gentrification is also connected to that, and particularly gentrification of black communities, historically black communities, where the property taxes go up or the rent goes up and people can no longer afford to live there, or you have these yuppies moving in. Is that still a term that people's using? But we have these upper middle class people moving into the city, and then we see them buy up old houses and rehab those old houses, and the property taxes may go up, and then those people are not able, the homeowners who were there for many generations, perhaps two or three, can no longer afford the rising property taxes, and then they end up getting put out. Okay, so again, this is a multi-layered story, but the reason I'm doing this story, I was on Twitter and I saw that Hannibal Buress, y'all remember Hannibal Buress? Now, I had never heard of Hannibal Buress. He is a black comedian, a black male. I had never heard of him until mainstream media started circulating that clip where he was calling out Bill Cosby for everything that we know he's been charged with and all the allegations, and I guess caught up in the Me Too movement. We know he was convicted of a sexual assault, although everyone is not in agreement on that case and whether he was innocent or guilty or whether he was set up or not. But that's how Hannibal Buress came to my attention. I imagine a whole lot of other people's attention, because I had never heard of this comedian Hannibal Buress until he said, F Bill Cosby, you rape people. So that's the Hannibal Buress I'm talking about. Now, Hannibal Buress is really showing that he is detached from the issue of homelessness, the issue of affordable housing, and he calls out Bernie Sanders, so to speak. I wouldn't really call this a call out, but he says Bernie Sanders is wrong. When Bernie Sanders retweets somebody else's status that was talking about the rising rent, and Bernie Sanders tweets out, we need a national rent control standard now. Now, this is something that people have been fighting for decades. Even going back to Dr. King when he was coming out against these slumlords and the poor people's campaign. So Hannibal Buress, in a hot take, which seems to have gotten him into hot water with a lot of his followers and other people on social media, and he says that Bernie Sanders is wrong. We do not need a national rent control standard, is what Hannibal Buress is saying here. So a lot of people, they take political positions on issues and what have you based off of their personal circumstance, where they are in life. And Hannibal Buress is not homeless. He's not working at a low-wage job and unable to afford his rent. He tweets out this, after he tweets that out saying we don't need rent control, he then tweets out a link and says, please donate. So you click on the link and it takes you to the Illinois Rental Property Owners Association, a statewide organization of persons, firms, and corporations who develop, own, or manage residential rental housing to inform members about legislative activity. So this is a lobbyist. So let's go to that homepage of this particular organization. Now, I'm not sure if it's nonprofit or not, but it's likely is, but it is lobbying the Governor Pritzker's office to ask him to amend SB 1872. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't live in Illinois, and I don't need to look it up for the purpose of this video. But as you can see on the page, you got people saying in Chicago, based on this image that's posted here, rent control now. People demanding rent control, high cost of living. Rent, a lot of people are paying more than a third, and some even more than a third of their income on rent. Okay, and so he supports this, obviously, Hannibal Buress. So it's likely that he is a rental property owner, a part of this association. That's why he's tweeting it out and asking for donations. Or he could be just paid to promote this issue by this organization. Okay, a lot of people are paid spokespersons, and they will host events and what have you, and then they're being paid by very wealthy people. I don't know what's true. It could be both is true. Okay, but I would assume that he's probably a rental property owner. Now, let's go back to BTRcommunity.com. I have been paying attention to rising homelessness in my area. I live just outside or across the river from Mecklenburg County, which is where Charlotte, North Carolina is. It's the largest city in North Carolina, has the largest population of African Americans. And I would say a majority population of African Americans and a majority minority if you include Hispanics. And so Charlotte, for a long time now, when I watch the local news or I read the local online paper, I will keep seeing these stories about problems with housing and people being forced out of Charlotte. As I took a screenshot from Google News of a couple of stories 4 weeks ago. WCNC.com posted a story. Congresswoman wants more housing vouchers in Charlotte. That's United States Congresswoman Alma Adams, a Democrat representing North Carolina District 12. Well, they're about to redo the districts because the Supreme Court or the federal courts threw out a gerrymander map for North Carolina. So that's likely to change here soon. But she's calling for more federal housing choice vouchers to help with the homelessness in Charlotte or the rising rent prices. Then you had the Charlotte Observer. One job should be enough. How Charlotte's low-wage jobs make housing unaffordable. Excerpt: consider Charlotte's affordable housing crisis as a math problem. Okay, and so anyway, this is a huge problem, not just in Charlotte, but all across the country. So Charlotte is on the East Coast. It's not directly on the coast. It's more situated in central, or I would say west central North Carolina. It's not on the coast, but Los Angeles is on the left coast, on the opposite end of the nation. And I came across an article that's actually maybe a week old, but I just saw it in Google News last night, and I was like, man, I gotta do a video about this. And so I was like, as I saw this Hannibal Buress tweet, I was like, well, I could work this in. The homeless are dying in record numbers on the streets of Los Angeles. Homeless people are dying across Los Angeles on bus benches, hillsides, railroad tracks, and sidewalks. Okay, thousands of people. I think something close to 4,000 people in the past 5 years, homeless people, have been found dead in the LA area. I guess that's Los Angeles County as well, right? So this is a huge problem. Now, when you look at the details of this story, it talks about it's more than just one issue. It's a multi-layered issue. Not only are people not able to afford housing because we don't have affordable housing and we don't have a national rent control policy, a lot of people are not able to afford housing and they end up on the streets. You have these tent cities all throughout LA. It's really terrible there. And so the reason that they're dying is, I imagine if I was homeless and just really just depressed and down on my luck, hopefully I wouldn't be in a state that I would use drugs, but a lot of people turn to drugs when they live in such dire straits. So some of them is related to the opioid crisis, but also is related to poor health care in this country. excuse me. People talk about the Affordable Care Act, but I have renamed it the Unaffordable Care Act, with rising premiums and millions of people uninsured. So I imagine homeless people don't have insurance and are not able to get preventive health care or even address any health care issues that they have now. So it's multi-layered to why they're dying, but these are homeless people dying in record numbers on the streets of Los Angeles. Okay, so now if I was renting out a house, okay, my family does own property. A bunch of us, we've had this property, and we do pay property taxes. And so rising property taxes is an issue. Okay, it is an issue because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that's part of gentrification. When you have these people with money who move into these historic communities, buy up property, then fix up the property to the point that it starts raising up property values because of few houses, and then the people who have been living there for generations get pushed out because they can no longer afford the property taxes. Even if you still paying for your home, you still gotta, if you got a mortgage, you still gotta pay property taxes. So Hannibal Buress isn't incorrect to be concerned about rising property taxes or rental property taxes. Okay, that's an issue, but they ain't none of these rental property owners really paying those taxes. They put it in the rent, and that is also a variable in the problem of why we don't have affordable housing. So he could have did better here. He could have engaged the Sanders campaign and asked him about, okay, if you want to pass this and you want rental property owners to get on board, then there should be a freeze on property taxes. We should get vouchers or an exemption, a tax exemption, that if we are going to implement rent control so that people can afford housing, then you should push for some kind of program to where our rising taxes are offset. So again, you don't have to totally be on board with an issue because you're not totally informed, but that's why you engage with people and you talk to people instead of just coming out and saying he's wrong. We do need national rent control standards. That's a fact. And the rising homeless population in the United States, I can't think of any better evidence. So, that's being detached from what poor and working class people go through in this country. And it is, basically just being concerned about yourself and fighting for yourself and not fighting for others and not willing to engage in a way that has the interests of us all, the common good of us all at heart. So I would say to rental property owners, why don't you work with Sanders on this national rent control proposal? And I'm not sure that he has one. I don't believe he even has one, but hey, once he becomes president, maybe that's something that will be implemented or attempted legislation in the future. And then you could be a part of pointing out that, hey, we dealing with rising prices, rising taxes, that in turn forces us to raise our rent prices, which we got to pass on to the consumer or to the renter. And so will your national rent control proposal provide relief to rental property owners who apply for this national rent control standard? So again, I don't have the answers to all the questions, but that's what dialogue is for. That's why you engage people instead of coming off all callous and just saying somebody's wrong. Homelessness is one of the many problems in this country. All right, this has been Scotty Reed with the Black Talk Radio News Report. Again, I implore you to make a tax-deductible donation to the Black Talk Media Project. If you think this information is constructive, please share it with others. We do not charge for access to the media that we produce. And so you can go to blacktalkradionetwork.com. You'll find a PayPal link, or you can go to the About section and you will find our mailing address and make them, if you want to do check or money order to Black Talk Media Project. Okay, so again, that's blacktalkradionetwork.com. The only way that we can be the people's media is that the people support it. Peace and blessings to all.